It's the 90s Kid Show. Welcome to the 90s. Welcome back to another episode of the 90s Kid Show, and we take a look back 20 years ago in the 90s, February 1994. We take a look at events and things that happened, things of note from 20 years ago, February 1994. Alright, let's begin with sports and athletics. The 1994 Winter Olympics was hosted by Lillehammer, Norway from February 12 to February 27. It was the only Winter Olympics to be held just 2 years after the previous one in 1992, and the initial event to take place in a different year from the Summer Olympics. Russia won the most gold, but Norway took the most medals overall. Some memorable competitors include Peter Forsberg and his Swedish ice hockey team against Team Canada, figure skaters Alexei Urmanov, Elvis Stoico, 16-year-old Oksana Bayul, Nancy Kerrigan, and the infamous Tanya Harding, and speed skaters Bonnie Blair and Johan Olav Koss. Also, other events that happened in February 94. February 5th, Byron de la Beckwith, a white supremacist, is convicted for his murder of African-American civil rights leader Medgar Evers. The 1994 state trial ended with a conviction of first-degree murder for killing Medgar Evers in 1963. De la Beckwith died at age 80 as a prisoner in January 2001. Medgar Evers served in the military during World War II and discharged honorably as sergeant. His activism included protests against segregation, public investigations into Emmett Till's murder, and support for other black figures such as Clyde Kennard, an imprisoned activist who was vocal against racist schools. February 6th, Markale Massacre. 68 people were killed and left 200 injured by a mortar shell in Sarajevo's main market square. The open-air market was packed with civilians, and between 12:10 to 12:15 p.m., the explosive occurred and was blamed on the Bosnian Serb army. These conflicts were part of the Bosnian War between early 92 to late 1995, which tore the ethnic groups of Bosniak Muslims, Serbs, and Croats regarding independence. February 25th, American-born Israeli Baruch Goldstein shot to death 29 Palestinians and injured 125 more. His victims were Muslim worshippers inside a cave of patriarchs in the West Bank. Goldstein was a militant far-right Jewish fundamentalist who worked as a physician. During his time as an emergency doctor, he even refused to treat Arabs within the IDF. He was beaten to death during his rampage, finally overwhelmed by the survivors of Muslim worshippers. February 24th, in Gloucester, police excavated human bones from the home of Fred West, a person they've been investigating regarding suspected murders and disappearances. Fred, along with his wife Rosemary West, killed around 11 to 13 young women and girls between 1967 to 1987. They ranged from 8 years old to 27, often torturing and raping their victims. Fred and Rosemary were arrested that same month. Fred would later hang himself in prison, while Rosemary was given a life sentence. Taking a look at music in February 1994, punk rock band Green Day dropped their third album, Dookie, which would go on to sell over 20 million copies around the world. The record produced several hits including When I Come Around. Dookie also ends up winning a Grammy Award for Best Alternative Music Album and was placed 193 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time. In video games, February 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 came out for the Sega Genesis, aka the Mega Drive. This game introduced Knuckles the Echidna. On February 23rd, Super Street Fighter II Turbo was released in arcades, and this particular version, the 5th version of Street Fighter II, introduced the character Akuma. In films and or television, February 4th, 1994, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective was released in theaters, starring Jim Carrey and directed by Tom Shadyac. Jim Carrey, who also wrote the comedy film, played a private investigator in Florida looking for a kidnapped dolphin named Snowflake. The film was a huge hit with a budget of $15 million, took in over $107 million at the box office. This film was instrumental in launching Jim Carrey's career as a Hollywood superstar, and the film also starred Courtney Cox, Tone Loc, Sean Young, and Dan Marino. Taking a look at famous births and or deaths in February 94, we'll take a look at the births. February 1st, Harry Styles of One Direction, an English boy band. Harry Styles was born on February 1st, 94. February 23rd, Dakota Fanning was born. She began as a prominent American child actress in the early 2000s. She starred in big movies such as Man on Fire, War of the World, Charlotte's Web, Coraline, and The Twilight Saga. Taking a look at deaths from 1994, February 6th, Jack Kirby died at the age of 76. He was born in New York City. Jack Kirby was a legend and innovator in the comic book industry. He helped create and worked on various characters such as Captain America, Fantastic Four, The Incredible Hulk, Thor, X-Men, Manhunter, New Gods, and Black Panther. February 26th, Bill Hicks was only 32 years old when he passed away because of pancreatic cancer. Highly acclaimed as one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time, Hicks spoke about philosophy, drug use, challenging authority, questioning the accepted truth, and counterculture in his material. Attacking consumerism, religion, and politics, Bill Hicks was unafraid to offend the audiences with his unapologetic cynicism. And those are some of the famous events and things that happened in February 1994, 20 years ago this month. That's it for this episode of the 90s Kid Show. Thank you for watching, and tune in next month for another recap 20 years ago in 1994.